After a decade-long negotiations, finally on 27th Jan 2026, India and the European Union, the fourth and the second largest economies of the world, concluded the free trade agreement. Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the State of Affairs brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy. Today we are going to talk about the India-European Union free trade agreement, the mother of all deals. So why this India-European Union free trade agreement is very special? Because India has a lot of free trade agreement with various countries. For example, we have free trade agreements with at least 40 to 50 countries, including major economies like Australia, United Arab Emirates, and Japan. But why this India-European Union free trade agreement is very special? First of all, the effort behind this India-European Union free trade agreement, because the actual negotiations for this FTA were started in the year 2007. And in 2013, the negotiations were suspended due to disagreements over various sectors. And again, in the June month of 2022, the negotiations were once again relaunched. And we can see that between the June 2022 and 2025, nearly 14 formal negotiations were held regarding data security, tariff, and intellectual property management. And finally, on 27th January 2026, the European Union and India signed the free trade agreement, the mother of all deals, in the national capital of India. And we have some more procedures. For example, we have to go for legal review, translation, and ratification. Once all these procedures are done, then we are expecting the implementation of this FTA from the fourth quarter of the 2026. So, what are the major provisions? We can see that there is one more thing which makes this European Union India free trade agreement more special, because through signing this free trade agreement, we literally created a market worth of 24 trillion. And it will provide opportunities for 2 billion people. Not that out of this 2 billion people, 1.4 billion people are from India. So that also makes this India-European Union free trade agreement very special. And talking about the major provisions, first we'll talk about the market accessibility. So we can see that once the treaty comes to force, once the agreement comes to force, nearly 97% of the Indian exports will receive benefit. That means they do not have to pay any duty. And immediately after the implementation, this benefit will be available for 70.4% of the Indian exports to the European Union market. That contributes to 90% of the export value of India to the Europe. And within another 3 to 5 years, the remaining 20% also will be getting the same benefit, and the remaining 6.1% will be experiencing reduced tariff and quota-based accessibility to the European Union market. What is the offer of India? India offered 92% of the tariff line reduction for the European Union tariff line. So we can see that once the treaty comes to force, immediately 46% of the European Union's export will reach the Indian market, and in another 5 to 10 years, India will be slowly opening the accessibility to the European market. That means they will be also getting the same benefit like the India. But both nations agreed for protecting their sensitive areas. For example, in the case of European Union, beef industry, and in the case of India, cereals, dairy and agriculture, and also the MSMEs. So both nations are opening their market, but at the same time, they are accepting to protect their sensitive sectors. And the next is the agriculture and farmers. So how this India-European Union FTA is going to impact the agriculture? So Indian products, particularly the tea plantations, coffee beans, spice, grapes and fruits will get preferential accessibility to the European Union market. That means the European Union will treat these products like the Europe's product. And this will boost the export, and this will boost the farmers' income, livelihood, and also the women empowerment in the rural area. And at the same time, protectionism is imposed on sensitive sectors. That means these areas will be regulated, like dairy, poultry, and cereals. These sectors in agriculture and allied activities will be regulated by the government to protect the sensitive areas. And the next is the rules of origin and ease of doing business. What is meant by rules of origin? So whenever we talk about the business or whenever we talk about the free trade agreement, we often hear about this principle, that is the rules of origin. What is mean by this rules of origin? See, according to the FTA, that is according to the free trade agreement, the products of the parties of the FTA will be receiving the benefits, not for the other products from other third party. For example, in the case of the India-European Union Free Trade Agreement, the benefit of the FTA is accessible only to the European Union products and the Indian products, not to the Chinese product or not to the American product. But sometimes if there is no regulation, in that case, this rules of origin is often manipulated by a third party. How? For example, the European Union is ready to give the benefit to India or the tariff reduction to India, but not to the China or USA. So what happens? The US products and the Chinese products will not be entering into the European market without much complexity. So what happens to reduce this tariff, to reduce the trade barriers? They will export the products to the European Union through India. So this will happen. This is how the rules of origin is often manipulated by the third party if it is not monitored or regulated. By the FTA between the European Union and India provides for product specific rules of origin. For example, in the case of a textile, textile includes what are the major components of textile: yarn, fabric, and garment. And imagine that this yarn is from Bangladesh, and the fabric and the garment, that means it is stitched in India. In that case, the textile will be considered as Indian product. If this substantial process is not happening in India, then that product will not be considered as Indian product. So the India-European Union Free Trade Agreement is providing provisions for product-specific origin, rules of origin. And the next, talking about the ease of doing business. So we know that exporting a product to another market, another country's market, is not an easy task. It has a lot of complexities and formalities. And one of the major issue is the getting the certificate of origin. So before that, the exporter has to go to the government authorities to get the certificate of origin. But now the exporter, according to the FTA between the India and the European Union, the exporter can self-certify. That means he can declare that this product is Indian origin. So this will reduce the complexity, it will reduce the time, it will reduce the paperwork, and more exports will reach the European Union's market. And this will be more flexible for the MSME. And talking about the service and mobility, so what are the commitments between India and European Union regarding the service and mobility? So once the treaty comes to force, nearly 144 subsectors, service subsectors of the European Union will be opened for India, and on the other side, India will be opening 102 service subsectors for European Union. And the benefit is not just for the people who are permanently working in the service sector, it is also for the mobility professionals. For example, business visitors, corporate transferees, contract professionals, and also the independent professionals. So when they go to Europe, they don't have to go through a lot of paperwork, they don't have to go through many time consuming formalities, and also they will be receiving, their work will be receiving tariff reduction, and such benefits are provided under the European Union India FTA. And we can see that India not just addressed the economic side, India also upheld the traditional knowledge of India, AYUSH. So the European Union India Free Trade Agreement recognized the Indian traditional medicine. So we can establish more AYUSH centers in India, and it will also ensure protection for traditional knowledge digital library of India and the Europe. So more AYUSH centers can be established in India, and Indian medicines will be getting recognized. That means the traditional Indian medicines, that is Ayurveda, Unani, Yoga, Siddha, all this will be recognized in Europe, and also the traditional knowledge digital library will be established, and it will be protected in the European Union, 27 countries of the European Union. And the very crucial area, that is the intellectual property rights, very crucial area. So when we talk about the trade between two countries, we are not just talking about the service and the goods and service. There we have to address the knowledge also, right? So this share of knowledge is often an area of conflict between many countries. So how does intellectual property rights works? And for that we have a treaty called the trade-related, trade-related aspects for intellectual property management. That shortly known as TRIPS. So this agreement was signed in the year 1995. It's a World Trade Organization agreement signed in the year 1995 to set a standards for regulating the intellectual property rights. So how does intellectual property rights work? It covers various areas like patent, copyrights, such areas. So imagine that we have a disease. For example, let's take the case of HIV. And suddenly, one day, the United States of America or any other major power produced a medicine for curing this HIV. What happens? Under this TRIPS, the America or the produced entity can take patent for the medicine. Once they took the patent, only that country can produce the, or that entity or the company can produce this medicine. If another country wants to produce the same medicine, then they have to take the license or patent from this. That means they have to get permission from this company or the country. And this TRIPS itself provides flexibilities regarding the medicine and all that's happening. But on the other side, in 2001, we held this Doha Declaration on TRIPS and public health. So this Doha Declaration on TRIPS and public health upheld the moral side of the TRIPS agreement. So according to this Doha Declaration of public health and TRIPS and public health, for the generic medicine, we do not have to wait. Another country do not have to wait for the permission or licensing from the patent holding country. That means the patent holding country does not have to give permission or license for another country to produce generic medicines, that is life-saving medicines. So that is the core, or that is the crux of the Doha Declaration. So the India-European Union Free Trade Agreement is focusing on the principles of TRIPS, as well as it is not diluting the Doha Declaration. It is not diluting the Doha Declaration principle. So, for example, imagine that tomorrow the European Union produced a cure for a particular disease. In that case, the European Union cannot monopolize the medicine and its production, and it will be accessible for India also. And also the provisions of the FTA talks about the technology transfer cooperation and also the protection of the traditional knowledge. The best example is the traditional knowledge digital library. And the next is addressing the problems like the sanitary and phytosanitary and the technical barrier of trade. So how the European Union and India is going to cooperate in this area? What is mean by this sanitary and phytosanitary, first of all? So these are the measures implemented by a particular country to maintain the ecological balance while engaging in the export and import. For example, if you want to export a ton of mango to the European Union, before the FTA, what happens? You have to go through strict monitoring. You have to address a lot of safety measures. You have to go through a lot of safety testing and all. But according to the free trade agreement, now there is no need for that. If India gives a fitness certificate to this ton of mango, then it is acceptable in the European market also. And then talking about the technical barriers of the trade. For example, if you want to export an electronic equipment to the European Union, then you have to maintain the European standard for that electronic equipment. Then you have to go to many safety norms, and then you have to maintain then you have to go through a lot of procedures. But according to the free trade agreement, if here the Indian safety norms are certifying that this product is safe, then the products will get easy accessibility to the European Union. That means if India accepts that this product is safe, then that particular product will be accepted in the European Union market also. In a single line, we can say that. In India, if a product is accepted, then the product will be accepted in the European Union also. That means the product don't have to go through another procedure to get access in the European Union. So here the countries are that means the European Union and India is accepting mutual certification and the mutual recognition of the products for faster clearance and more accessibility to the products in the market. And talking about the sector-wise gains, so once the treaty comes to force, the textiles will be receiving zero duty and strong accessibility to the European Union. Minerals, furnitures, and plastics and rubber will be getting expanded accessibility to the European Union. Medical devices will be receiving tariff elimination up to 6.7%, and gems and jewelries will be receiving preferential accessibility to the European Union market. Chemicals will be receiving zero duty, and engineering goods, particularly the goods produced by the MSMEs, will be having enhanced accessibility to the European Union. And also the leather and footwear, the tariff elimination for the leather and footwear will be reduced from 70% to 0%. That means hereafter, once it is fully implemented, there is no tariff on leather and footwear. And talking about the marine products, elimination of tariff up to 26%. So these are the major focus area of the India-European Union Free Trade Agreement. I hope you understood this topic. So if there is any doubt, you can comment in the comment section. And we are expecting the complete implementation of this FTA in the fourth quarter of the financial year 2026. So let's be optimistic, and we are looking forward. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.